Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about assignment operators. Now in our last video we talked about variables. If you remember in the video prior to that we talked about arithmetic operators. So using our incrementing by 1, incrementing by 2, but this time we're going to be using a different type of operator, and these are called assignment operators. There are 6 different types of assignment operators that we're going to cover in this video. So we're going to start off by creating our file. So again, you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call mine assignmentoperators.jas. And notice the convention, or the way that I name my files. So for the first word, it's all lowercase. As you can see, there's a small a, a small s, a small s. And then when you go to look at the second word, it starts with a capital. So this convention is called camel case. So you can follow this along with your own code. It's a very popular naming convention for files, and I feel it also leaves your files much easier to read. So let's open our blank file, and we're going to just start off by creating 2 variables. So we just say num1 and num2. So we're going to say num1 and we're going to let it equal to 8. So we'll type in let num1 equals 8, and I'm just going to copy this line and I'm going to paste it down on the following line. I'm just going to change this number 8 to number 2 and then change the name of the variable, because remember we can't have 2 variables of the same name, so we're just going to call this num2. Now if we want to console log these two, we've done this before, so I'm just going to quickly run through it. So you can see I've console logged our 2 variables, num1 and num2, and we can see our outputs is 2 and 8, as would be expected with this program. Now the first assignment operator that I'm going to talk about, we've actually used it, and that's the equals operator, and we can see it here and here. And what the equals operator does is it takes whatever value we want. So for example in num2 we are taking 2 and we're putting 2 into the num2 variable, and then we're printing out that num2 variable in the console log. So I think we all get this idea. So I'm going to jump into the more complex ones. They're not actually that difficult, but there would be something that you wouldn't have seen in traditional maths before. So if we wanted to maybe, let's say, add a number to num2, so let's say we wanted to add maybe 5 to it, so then num2 would equal 7. So what we can do is we could have something like this. Now make sure that we need to have this statement before we console log our num2. So we could put it here after the console log num1, or we could put it here. Either way is fine. So I'm just going to put it here, and I'm going to say num2, and then I'm going to put this plus, and then I'm going to put an equals. And it's, the syntax is a little bit funny, but this is what it does. So as I said before, I want to add 5 to the number, so I'm going to put 5 in there. And what this line does of JavaScript, it actually adds 5 to whatever the current number is. So if we go and run this, you'll see the output, and we go run, we can see that we get 7 here. And this might look a little bit funny to you, or a little bit unusual. One way we can think about this is we could do another line here, right? And this additional line is not going to affect our program, but I just want to explain to you that these 2 lines do exactly the same thing. So we could have num2, and then we could have it equal, let's say, 7, like this, right? So imagine this line didn't exist, right? We'd run through our code, we would see our num2 is equal to the number 2. Then we go down through here, we console log the number 1, we can see it here, which is 8. And then when we hit this line, because we're imagining that this line here just doesn't exist, when we hit this line, we're placing the number 7 into num2. And then when it's displayed as 7. Now what we can also do is we could also do something like this. So we could have like num2 plus, and then whatever number we want. So the number we used before was the number 5. So let's do that. So let's run this and see what result we get. We should get the exact same output, and so we do. We can see 8 and 7. So the idea is, rather than doing this here, so we can also use our assignment operator in this case. So the same thing to do would be num2 and then plus equals, and then we have whatever number we want. So we're going to just pick 5 in this case. So we're not going to see 7 when we go and run this program anymore, because if we think about it, we start off with num2 equaling 2, then we get down to this line and we're setting num2 to num2, which is 2 plus 5. So 2 plus 5 is 7. Now 7 has been put into this number 2 variable. Then when we follow up by going to the next line, num2 plus equals 5, what we're doing here is we're adding 5 to num2, so 5 plus num2, or the contents of num2, which is 7, so 7 plus 5 will equal 12. So if we go and just run this to see our output, we can run, and we can see our output is 8 and 12. So now I hope you've got a grasp on the basic idea of these operators. So now I'm going to just run through some of the other operators that we can use quickly, because they're quite similar. So let's get rid of all this code for a minute, and we'll just leave our num1 in our console log. So now if we go and run this, we should only see the number 8 being displayed. So this is great. So we want to change our num1 now. So what we want to do is we want to take some value away from it. So quite similar to the way we added values, we can subtract them in a very, very similar way. So if we select our variable, which in this case is num1, so we're going to select num1 and then we're going to perform our operation. So in this example we're going to be taken away, so we're going to go minus, and then we're going to go equals, and whatever number we want to take away from our num1. So in this case we're going to take away 4, so 4 from 8 will leave us with 4. So when we go and run this, we should see our output as 4, and we can see it's 4. Now similar to plus and minus, we can also use our multiplication, division, and our modulo operator that we have learnt in our previous video. So to just go and divide, we change our minus to our divide sign. Remember, it's / when we're programming, and we could leave the number 4 there. So let's run this and see our output. So if we go and run, we can see that our answer is 2, because 4 goes into 8 twice. Then we can also do our multiplication, so we change our division to multiplication, so we would put in our little asterisk, and then we would be multiplying 4 by 8, so 4 by 8 is 32, so we should see our output as 32. So when we run this, we can see our output is 32. So now we can move on to our modulo operator. So again, keep in mind, modulo is not the same as divide, it's getting our remainder. So if a number divides into another number evenly, it will always give 0. So if we continue with 4 for this example, so if I use the modulo operator, which is the % sign, we will get 0 as our output, because 4 goes into 8 twice. So if I run this, we will see our output as 0. Now if we picked something like 2, we would also get 0, because 2 also goes into 8 evenly. So if we go and run this, we can see that our answer is 0. But if we pick something like 3, so if we think about it, 3 can't go into 8, 3 can go into 9, and 3 can go into 6. So the difference between 8 and 6 would be 2. So our output in this case would be 2. So we're just going to run this to make sure that we're correct, and we can see that our output is 2.